It's WolfTix Radio.
Sean Diddy Combs received a standing ovation from fellow prisoners after being acquitted on 3 of the 5 charges against him in the recent federal trial. Diddy could serve less than a maximum sentence. The rapper is scheduled to be sentenced on October 3rd.
What's happening on the pop culture scene? I know you're pretty involved, with.
Oh man, there's a whole lot. Man. I mean, everybody. I'm calling it the Diddy distraction.
Diddy distraction, huh?
That's what I'm calling it because, everybody's talking about what was going on with Diddy, but I kind of pay attention to it, but I don't really get too involved. But there's other things going on. There's just a lot of shakeups going on in entertainment, pop, hip hop, all that good stuff. But this Diddy distraction is that's a whole different. You got people out there twerking in front of the courthouse when the verdict was read, pouring baby oil. That's like, come on, man.
See.
This is ridiculous.
This what we're gonna do, Odell. When we come forward, as we working out our guests, having some technical issues. Hopefully, we'll be able to connect him and get him into this conversation. But I didn't want to talk about Diddy. I swear I didn't. I thought Tavis's op-ed said it all.
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about Diddy.
Okay, let's go.
All right, we'll do that on the other side. Stay with us. We're gonna talk about this Diddy case in just a second. But Odell, were you really tracking her when they went to the door of no return? Odell's in the booth, and he's my partner this hour. Were you listening to that? I know you pushing buttons.
No, I was behind producing it. Whether they would go live or they would send me the clips. Yeah, I was here throughout the whole journey. And it was an emotional thing with them going with. They had about 50 or so other.
Right.
Yeah, and I heard it. I saw it. I mean, I heard what was going on. But yeah, I was pretty much here, not only pushing the buttons, but producing it, making sure everything sounds right and on time.
Now, when you say producing, and I mean this we call it BTS. So let's talk behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, folks, what Dominique does every morning for 3 hours is short of amazing. First of all, and it's not easy, right? I mean, Dominique is just a repository of history.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd match her against anybody, but when I heard Miles talking about it on air, y'all producing on the fly.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, no, first off, again, shout out to Dominique DePrima and Miles, because they do this every day, and it's no joke. But of course, she would be her dad. Her dad is a legend. You know what I'm saying? So of course, she comes from she comes from a line of, but yeah. As far as BTS, man, it's pretty much about timing. Just like behind the scenes, we have a clock we have to go by, honor, and timing is important. Setting the mood. It's almost like the element of hip hop with the DJ. The DJ is the one who sets the mood with what goes on behind the scenes here. Music is important, particular clips, you know what I mean? So and then also just for me, sound quality is key, so they were on live, and there's stuff going on in the background and things like that, so it's about normalizing the voice and just making sure that you guys, the audience, the KBLA delegation can hear them. And Tavis don't expect nothing but the best. We gotta just do our best. You know what I mean?
That's right. So there's like a 9-10 hour time difference. So sometimes they were live. They're live like we're live right now, and other times they recorded some pieces.
A majority of the time it was recorded.
Gotcha.
But a lot of times it was like probably recorded maybe an hour before, boom, sent it over, or sooner than that. But yeah, it was a few times where we tried to make it happen live. There's some technical issues, but overall, we made it happen. We made it happen.
All right. Well, that's our BTS behind the scenes radio, like how we make radio happen here, and how Dominique does what she does. You're a music guy, and I certainly enjoy listening to music. I have a Saturday slap segment that I play every week on my show that really kind of is like messaging the music. But right now we're talking about a music icon, right, who for the better part of the 90s, late 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, right, was the soundtrack, right? Mm-hmm. Was behind so many different artists and hits. I don't think, and of course we're talking about Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puffy, Diddy Love, and whatever iterations of his name that he's going by. And I guess Felon. I mean, I don't. It may continue to evolve, and there's been no shortage of rumblings around Los Angeles or around entertainment that at best Diddy was a hothead, right? He'd puff up sometimes, right?
Yep. That's why his name was Puffy.
Yeah, go off the handle, so to speak, right?
Yep.
What some may have thought was just kind of like the New York thing, that's just kind of how East Coast cat moves. We learned, we saw.
Yeah.
I don't think it's learned. We saw with our own eyes that videotape that was made public from the hotel here in Los Angeles of him viciously assaulting, dragging, and kicking Cassie Ventura. Yeah. His former love interest. I'm not sure. Vic. I think we can't call her Vic.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Look, man, there's news coming out now where they're saying, and I don't want to give too many people, I'm not going to say the person's channel because I don't really rock with the person, but I mean, me diving into this whole situation, I've gotten a lot of insight from people who were there, like Jing Dill. He's a I ain't gonna say a good buddy, but he's a friend of mine now, and he came out and said there's going to be a lot more other charges in the future, and then Cassie is actually going to be implicated as well. So yeah, she was a victim, but there's someone coming out now saying that she was complicit and she was with it, and he's suing her too. He's suing Diddy and he's suing her. He allegedly had received some, I try to edit myself, but STDs essentially. It's this whole, but the whole Diddy stuff, man, I'm just disgusted because it's I get it, and I heard what Tavis said in his editorial where they will try to throw anything at a black man and see what sticks. I get that. But people behind the scenes, we kind of knew Diddy's get down for years. I was surprised that the situation with Suge Knight came up. There was an interaction between, alleged interaction where Puffy, Diddy was in LA. He heard Suge was down on Sunset, and he allegedly pulled up, but nothing happened. But he was ready to, do some things to Suge. People know in the industry that, Puffy is, he is what he is. But here's my thing. I'm looking at something now, and they said that the people he was locked up with, they gave him the other inmates gave him a standing ovation after he beat the Fed RICO charges. I don't know if he deserves a standing ovation. And another thing, I'm gonna say this, and I don't want to cross the line. I'm gonna keep it just as what do you call it, politically correct as possible. Matt Gaetz. You know who Matt Gaetz is, right?
I don't.
Okay, Trump was going to appoint him Attorney General.
Yes.
And he had some charges he had some crazy charges on him, those charges. Assault, sexual assault. I try to edit myself. I'm not trying to,
You online? We ain't online.
No. But still, it has some involved with some minors or something like that, right? He went on his podcast comparing Diddy's situation because Diddy got hit with the Mann Act. He went on his podcast and compared Diddy to the likes of Jack Johnson and Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King, because they were under surveillance. Martin Luther King wasn't necessarily hit with the Mann Act, but this guy Matt Gaetz is like campaigning or doing some type of dog whistle to black Republicans or black male Republicans because he's trying to get some attention. It's sick. Like,
I won't conflate or even. I got to push back from that. I mean, Gaetz was accused of, or allegedly, minors are involved.
Yeah.
Right? And at least as of now, we don't see that in the Combs case, right? These were adults. Doesn't make it any make it right, But again, let's just be clear. Cassie Ventura has been adjudicated to be a victim.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think it's safe that whichever turn this takes going forward, I think it is, regardless to what people think, whether she chose to be there or was coerced to be there or was afraid to be in there.
Yeah.
A jury has decided that she's a victim. So
and I'm going to say this too. I'm not. I just brought up the fact that there were going to potentially be some new charges, but no, what happened to her was wrong. She was a victim just all the way out through. She was hired by Diddy. She was one of his artists, and he took advantage of her, definitely. I'll go on record and say she's a victim for sure.
And reading some of I'm reading some of the other stuff that they said Combs did receive a standing ovation when he returned back to, I guess, his pod or the detention center from the inmates. I don't, I'm not qualified to opine on beating a RICO charge.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to opine what it's like to take something to the box, right? And then to have to walk back into the facility or the yard with other inmates. But I think, as you were pointing out, and as Tavis has pointed out, I don't know that a RICO case.
Yeah, that was just an overkill. We got about 2 more minutes to go, but look, they just pretty much threw anything at it, similar to Bill Cosby. Like, I don't think Bill Cosby was guilty of it. They were just putting extras on it. I don't want to, I try to stay away from all that when it comes to, because certain people, and I hate to say it, that celebrity worship. You say something bad about a certain celebrity to a certain person, they might, you never know, they might turn on you. You can't talk. I try to just be neutral, but overall, yeah, they definitely.
Let's see, Jesus, Trump, and Diddy. You can
don't say right.
Don't say that. Hey, folks, the phone lines are open. We want to hear from you. 800-920-1580. 1-800-920-1580. You got Odell in the building. You got James Farr in the building. We're holding it down on First Things First here on KBLA Talk 1580. Dominique DePrima will be back in the seat tomorrow. Miles Lowe will be in the seat tomorrow. We're holding it down for her. And, this has been such a... I've enjoyed the time and working with you, Odell. I mean, you. I ain't gonna tell Miles, but I like you.
No, it's all good.
No, Miles Lowe is the man. Right now, you got me and Odell. We've been kind of talking around a few things, talking about the Diddy case, Sean Puffy Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy Love. Which one is it?
What is he? Is he loved now? I guess that's what he is. But I think his now number he's a correctional number. That's what it is now. 483. I don't know. Yeah.
So you were talking about earlier, folks giving him a round of applause, a standing ovation, right? I mean, obviously, our in jails and prisons are, inhumane, and I don't want to see anybody locked up.
Yeah,
right?
me neither.
Unjustly,
right?
Locked up,
right?
If you bought it, it's yours, and that's what it is. But to Tavis's point, people are too often, black men are over prosecuted. They throw cases at them to see exactly what will stick, right?
Right.
Does he come back from this? Do you see a career? What does it look like on the other side of this?
I think when it comes to hip hop, he's done. Like, I can't listen to a lot of the puffy stuff anymore. Like R. Kelly, and I grew up like Flavor in Your Ear, Project Funk the World, that Craig Mack album, phenomenal. Biggie's first album, phenomenal, right? But there's certain joints that I can't even listen to no more. Hip hop, he's done, my opinion.
Okay, because I'm struggling. You touched on Flavor. I was in Atlanta at Freaknik. I think it was 93, 94.
Man. Right when it dropped?
Right when it dropped, when they brought him out at Piedmont Park, right? I mean, that slapped, right?
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother discussion. Do we cancel the music? Do we cancel the artists? Because there's so many, I think Mary, Faith, Mace.
Yeah. It's
big, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can separate, just like you can separate the message from the messenger. I think we can separate the music from, the musician.
Let's go to a caller. We got a caller on the line. Who we got there?
My name is Jeff Davis. Can you hear me?
We hear you very well, Brother Jeff Davis. What you got on your mind this morning, brother?
Listen, I want to compliment you on the job you've been doing here in Altadena and Pasadena, for keeping us informed on the fires. I understand today is the 6-month anniversary.
Yeah.
And without the voice, Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, we'll be in dire straits here in Altadena, Pasadena. So on behalf of the residents here in Altadena and Pasadena, we just want to say thank you. But I have a couple of statements to make as it relates to Puff Daddy, if you don't mind. Can I have like 30 seconds?
I'm going to give you that. First of all, thank you, brother, for acknowledging and seeing the work that we're doing here at KBLA Talk 1580. And before we get to your comments, remarks, because it sound like you loaded, right? And you ready to fire off. So before we get there,
I'm ready to go, brother.
Were you or your family impacted by the fires in Altadena?
Oh, most definitely. Starting with my daughter, her mom, and her grandma. They lost their property, several friends. I own a real estate and mortgage company, and I put at least 300 families in homes between Altadena and Pasadena over the last 35 years. Mm-hmm. So I've had a plethora of clients and former clients who have lost properties. And matter of fact, the day that the flames were ensuing, I had the temerity, which is stupid, but I had the temerity to drive up there, up Fair Oaks Avenue. Fair Oaks Avenue, for those who don't know, is the main thoroughfare to get to Altadena, as the properties were burning. And it was scary, but I drove by a few of my friends' homes, my former pastor's home, and it was rough. Still is rough.
Our hearts are with you, brother. And if there's anything the delegation can do to help you with resources, tap into us. You heard Brandon Lamar on here earlier today. What you got for us on this Puffy case?
Well, I smoke cigars, so we have cigar conversations. We call it the Cigar Caucus. And I bet a guy $100 cigar that Puff Daddy would not be convicted of the most serious charges. So I'm going to roll down to the cigar lounge here in Sherman Oaks and go collect my $100 cigar. But we're gonna puff pass. We're not gonna puff pass my cigar. But I agree with the verdict, man. In fact, I would have loved to have seen Sean Diddy Combs exonerated on all charges. I think he was overcharged. I think the reason why he was charged so harshly was because he is a black role model, someone that's in the industry. And I think the federal government is sending a message to not only black men, but black people in general, that we don't give a darn how much money you have. We can take you down at the drop of a hat. And I think R. Kelly was the commencement of it. But let's take a little bit further than that. This is beyond the incarceration. This is about legacy catalog. I don't know if you remember this or not, but when R. Kelly was found guilty, immediately they began to discuss his catalog, and his catalog diminished in value. And the moment that it diminished in value, you had some sort of group. I don't know if it was a group within the industry, but they came and scooped up his catalog. But they tell us not to support and listen to his music, but at the same time they go through and purchase his catalog. And so I believe that Puff Daddy will come back not only bigger, but he'll come back better. Why? Because he beat the feds at their own game. It's very difficult to beat a RICO charge, and I'm so happy that he was able to do it. And I heard you articulate earlier that they had applauded him in the federal penitentiary. They not only applauded him in the federal penitentiary for winning on those charges, but we're applauding him here in L.A. too as well. Again, I've never met Puff Daddy. I've never been in his presence, but I never like seeing the brother locked up and maligned like that, because he has children, and I feel for quote unquote so-called victims. But I'm glad that he's been exonerated, and I hope that he comes back bigger and better.
Well, Jeff Davis, I appreciate you checking in with us. I'm conflicted, right? I have a daughter, and I heard you mention your daughter. I can't unsee what I saw on that video. Certainly, I don't want to see anybody, as I've said before, any of our brothers overcharged, over prosecuted, and certainly over sentenced. But I just cannot reconcile hands and feet on any woman. Let's go to Annette. Lynette is checking in with us. What you got for us this morning, Lynette?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I think we live in some very interesting times, and the ironies is, good Lord. But, like it was said earlier, how in the world are we going to have this big, beautiful bill passed, so-called big, beautiful bill passed, and then we got this Diddy trial, which is like the shiny thing. And I'm like, and by the way, the people of, the United States citizens, we United States citizens can actually sue because of the big, beautiful bill violating the Constitution, and that is undermining democracy, according to the Campaign Legal Center. You can go to campaignlegal.org. Mm-hmm. But they're making to where they're taking money for voting and everything. And that bill was horrible. Besides the atrocity and the human rights issues, democracy flies in the face of democracy. But anyway, how in the world are we going to have Diddy being charged when Diddy and everybody else is in Hollywood and these, I could say, our government, this is endemical, the power abuse and all this kind of stuff. When you really look at it, because Diddy hung out with, Trump and what's his name, what's his name, you know who I'm talking about.
I wasn't with him. So.
Epstein. She's talking about Epstein.
Well, and Trump and
Epstein.
He's 34 counts
Epstein, okay.
Guilty.
Uh-huh.
He's the president.
Uh-huh.
And you got that, what's his name, that used to do the human trafficking and found his jail cell dead.
Epstein. You're talking about Epstein.
Epstein. Yeah. And then you had Clyde Davis, and they all, literally, they all hung out together. You have pictures with Diddy, Clyde Davis, Epstein, and Trump and them. They up here, and here it is. Why is it that only Diddy goes to jail? Where is the fairness? I'm not saying that Diddy is innocent or anything like that, but then you got 34 counts with Trump being,
Lynette, Lynette, let's not do that, right? We know there has always been a different set of rules. Lynette, you was giving us an earful. What you got for us? Land this thing for us so we can keep it moving.
Well, I know that this is endemic, what goes on in Hollywood and Washington, D.C., they mirror each other. And they both are out of control when I look at it in the big picture. But Diddy, I mean, and compared to Trump, I mean, they all used to hang together, and Trump ain't even. He got 34 counts, okay, and he gets to be president. He shouldn't be dog catcher right now. In fact, Al Green, Congressman Al Green, has an impeachment that's been going on for about a month. You don't even hear about it as much, but it's still happening, and it needed to happen a long time ago with Trump, and a lot of these folks that's in power. They needed to be dealt with a long time ago. However, like I said, it just seems like it just, when it comes to, the low level kind of people, they always get the repercussion.
Well, I ain't gonna say you wrong, Lynette. I'm not gonna disagree with you, but I think again, I just don't get into that conversation often or at all, for that matter, when we look at that, when people say, well, if he was black, well, hell, we know what the answer to that is, right? We see that. But then it didn't got so bad now, and everybody that Trump got, I mean, to me, he reminds you of Al Capone. I mean, he got the attorney general, and really they trying to work on disbarring her. And in fact, the Supreme Court justices, they need to be disbarred too. Because really it's a criminal organization that he got called in administration, that he got a bunch of Nazis and his criminal organization. And they're putting our country in deep peril. This is where we have to draw the line. Well, it has to be drawn somewhere. This plutocratic I'm going to push back a little bit, right? It ain't bad. It is going to get worse, right? So let's, when we look at what we've been through as a culture, as a people, and I'm working on becoming a hope addict and being addicted to hope and having, more importantly, a discipline of hope. I've been called a curmudgeon and a bit cynical. Let's check in with Kwamel. Kwamel, what you got for us this morning?
All right, so before I mess with the Diddy thing, that don't sound right.
Hey, bro. Pause.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, let's pause for that ass. Let's see. Okay, the dang. Somebody want to call right when you get thrown on the air. But first off, how can we get that pork off your fork, man?
Whose fork you on, brother? Mine?
See, we try to say it though, because you confessed that you said you still eat pig, and I was like, man, hold up, bro. We got to do something about that, man.
I love black women. Does that count? Dog. Does that count? I'm married to a black woman.
The two are mutually exclusive, man. Don't do however that term works, but no. That's not even a correlation, man. Don't even try it. But anyways, quick on the Diddy thing, because I got to call that person back. Really, I think hip hop it has shown its unfortunate behind anyway, because they already was on, like, especially these dudes. They're going to go, oh, Puffy's just gay, man. This crowd is being gay. We don't like them gay dudes, man. Oh, my God, he's so weird with those freak-offs. He's just so gay. I see him all over social media, just a bunch of, like, basically a big bro mentality. So he kind of was, like, a lot of people just didn't like him to begin with and didn't care for him. Probably even since Biggie rocking, but once the rumors were circulating, they were like, yeah, gay, and they want nothing to do with him. So they actually wanted to see him.
Hold on, Kwame, because I know you ain't made your point, and I'm gonna ask you to park it right.
No, I'm rapping.
No. Because can you stay with me? I want you to make your point on the other side, but I got to pay a bill real quick, right? I see where you're going with this, right? And a lot of cats. They fell on that opinion, but some cats talk about trains and things that they did. Anyway, that looks shady too.
It's WolfTix Radio.